The Shepnaz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shepnaz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. And today we're taking a look at a ministry that we are focusing on for the month of May for One for One. For those that you aren't aware, at our Shepherd Church, we have a one-for-one ministry where if you attend in person at Gahanna campus or Johnstown campus or online, we give $1 on your behalf to a local organization or a global organization. And in this case, for the month of May, it is going to be Youth for Christ. And we have a lot of tie-ins with Youth for Christ over the years, starting with our lead pastor, Rob Paul, who started his ministry years with Youth for Christ, and he was mentored under Dan McLaughlin, who ended up being a regional director and mentored Rob, and then he was the pastor at our Johnstown campus before it was our Johnstown campus. So we've had a lot of tie-ins with YFC over the years, and today we have with us Sam Zeid and Alex Francis. Welcome in, guys.
Hey,
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Get your mic real close up to you. I know this is new experience for both of you, but I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity, first of all, to kind of introduce yourselves and kind of what your role is with YFC, and then we'll get a little bit into kind of your walk and what the work is of YFC up at Johnstown. So, Alex, let's hear from you first.
Sure. My name's Alex, and I've been with Youth for Christ since 2019, and I am the area director for the Johnstown, Northwest Licking area. The Northwest Licking County. So,
all right.
Yeah, we do campus life up there and got a small little ministry, but that's where we're headquartered.
And Sam?
Yeah, my name's Sam Zeid. I also started with Youth for Christ as a volunteer in 2019 and then joined our staff in 2021. I am a ministry site leader at the Northwest Licking County site, and I also help with our hiring and onboarding in our office part-time as well.
All right. And for those that aren't aware, we especially have a tight connection with YFC in Johnstown because where we meet as a Johnstown campus is actually in the YFC building. You got like 3 buildings up there. There's a house that we use as our offices up there. There is a sanctuary that we have our services in on Sunday morning. And then you guys also have a community building, which when we first started having our services in YFC, we were having them in that building. And now we actually have our children's ministry in that building on Sunday mornings, but that's kind of home for you guys. So I would imagine it was a little different in the past year of seeing some things happening in those buildings.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of like a new roommate coming in who really cared about the house. And so it's been an awesome partnership, and we love it, and we love the overlap, and we love being able to collaborate and support one another, and just glad it's being used.
Well, and we're happy that the work that we've put in is not just benefiting ourselves, but it's also hopefully benefiting you guys as well. And as we were just talking before we were recording, we can probably even expand that a little more to help you guys out, in what you would be wanting to do in the future. So before we get into everything YFC, I just wanted to maybe spend a little bit of time talking about your personal walk of how you came to Christ and how it was that, the Lord led you to YFC as opposed to any place else that maybe you could be ministering. So, Sam, would you like to kind of chip in here?
Yeah, I can get started.
Sure.
So I grew up in a Christian home. I went to a Bible-believing and gospel-preaching church, but it wasn't until I was in high school that I actually, made the personal decision. In middle school, I was just kind of super anxious, super depressed, felt very aimless, and kind of just started rejecting God as a whole. The church that I grew up going to ended up dissolving, and I didn't think that was possible for a church. So kind of affected how I viewed God and Christianity as a whole. And fast forward a couple of years to my sophomore year in high school, I wrestled, and a teammate of mine committed suicide. And that kind of shook my foundation a lot for what I believed, being at that point, I'd say an atheist. And I was like, there's got to be something more than just this life. So I want to look into that. And so I started kind of looking around in the different worldviews and religions, and just really felt like God was guiding my path towards like essentially back to Him. And then in between my sophomore and junior year, I had a really close friend who kind of was with me the whole time. He ended up leading me to Christ, and I prayed with him that summer. And then from there, I was a part of a similar organization, Youth for Christ, called Young Life, throughout high school, which helped kind of build a foundation for my Christian walk. And then just kind of ended up in the church I go to now, Dwell Christian Community Church, where I connected with Alex Francis after going there for a couple of years. And he's kind of what got me connected to Youth for Christ in the first place. So that's kind of my story and where I'm at.
All right. And so, Alex, since you recruited him, obviously you must be a great proponent and representative for YFC. So tell us a little bit about your faith, how you came to Christ, and then how it was that you came to Youth for Christ.
All right. Try to keep it short because I don't know how much time we have. But
I've got plenty of data space here. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I grew up not a church kid. I was kind of your run-of-the-mill, typical Columbus Public. Grew up in Clintonville, Buckeye all my life, But faith wasn't really anything that was super strong in my family growing up. I mean, we dabbled in Russian Orthodox because my mom was Russian, and we'd kind of head up to, Christmas Mass and Easter Mass like twice a year up in Akron. But apart from that, I didn't really touch much religion. And then into middle and high school, as middle and high school students do, they start acting out. They start asking big questions about who am I, what's the heck, the whole purpose to life. And it was really easy to fall in with the wrong crowd. And so I started doing that and looking for fulfillment. Obviously, there was something that other people kind of had, and you're supposed to have these feelings of significance and worth growing up. But they just kind of seemed elusive to me. So, further into high school, kept kind of making bad decisions. But I started asking bigger questions, and I started asking my friends bigger questions. And I knew I had some friends that, went out to church, this church, that church. And so I asked if I could tag along. I wanted to learn more about spirituality. And I went to a couple different youth groups, and that was kind of fine, but I feel like it kind of lacked a little bit of substance. And then I had a friend bring me out to, a high school Bible study where there were like 30 kids my age, all in high school, some of which went to my school, some of which went to like a rival high school. But they were all bonded under like, one more bigger grand purpose. Mm-hmm. And so after listening to the gospel and the teachings for 3, 4, 5 months, I finally made the decision to invite Jesus into my life and kind of like pay for my sins and start a relationship with him the summer before my junior year of high school. And so then throughout high school, it became all about learning how to follow God faithfully. And there were some ups and downs, but eventually I got into a college-age Bible study that our church hosts, and got my life together, got married, had a kid, figured I should probably graduate high school or college before my kid beats me to it. Yeah. And then after graduating there, I started checking out ministry opportunities to work, as a vocation. And some people in my church recommended Youth for Christ. So I checked it out, and they were in a phase of wanting to expand new ministry sites in new areas, whether it was Dublin or Grove City. I ended up kind of checking out the Johnstown ministry, and that one clicked with my heart a lot more. It was something that was already in existence, and it was something, there was a leadership turnover where some of the people formerly on staff wanted to just kind of focus on raising their young kids. Yeah. And I felt like I was positioned to come in and kind of bring in a lot of support from the college ministry that I was a part of. And that was 2019. And I came on in October, and I think I brought Sam in November. So we've kind of been together for a while in this.
Now, I have to address the elephant in the room. It's 2019 when you're getting started, and then COVID hits. Yeah. So we know how that affected a lot of the local churches. Like a lot of people were just kind of caught off guard. Like, how do we do ministry like this? So walk us through a little bit of like, what was that like for a parachurch organization, for YFC, especially with schools getting shut down and everything else? What did that look like for you guys?
Well, I'll let Sam say a few things too, but I will start with the irony in all this was I didn't feel called by God to like pioneer a new venture. And then, COVID happened and everything kind of shut down, and our our high school group died and our middle school group like went on life support. And then we kind of found ourselves having to rebuild from the bottom anyways. Yeah. So it was quite ironic, but yeah, Sam has some fun experience with that too.
Sure.
Yeah, it was because COVID hit. We've probably been doing it for 4 months. We had a middle school camp like 3 weeks before everything shut down. And I was like, this is awesome. We got a good pot of guys. Like there's a foundation to build on, like Alex said. And COVID happened. And I think for the first like 3 months until it was the summer, we had like 1 or 2 kids on a Zoom meeting because nobody wants to go on a Zoom meeting, especially when they have to go for school. Like they don't want to do it on their evenings. So definitely was a lot of trial and error and a lot of learning. I think this summer, since we could be outside and hang out with students, was very revitalizing and kind of gave me a little bit more of a pulse with like, okay, we can do this. But it was very tough for the first couple months, and honestly, the whole first like year and a half was just not exactly what we expected. But and it really for at least me, it was like, okay, well, if I had any thought in my mind that I could do this on my own power, that was immediately erased, and it was like, this is the only way we're going to be able to grow this ministry with the means that we have is through God, and just being willing to do what He draws us to do up here.
In going through that, my youngest son was in high school during COVID, and like you saw really how their high school memories and experiences were just obliterated. The whole thing of whether it's marching band or a sporting event or dances or dramas and plays and choir concerts and things like that, the things that maybe we all have as various shared experiences from our high school years and things that they had been looking forward to were just pulled away.
Yeah.
And, certainly we can look back and wonder, in hindsight, were all those decisions the right decisions? But, well-intentioned people were trying to do the best they could at the time. And I'm wondering, coming out of that, what have you guys seen now as far as kind of like an openness to trying to do group activities, to being involved in spiritual things? What has been kind of the temperature of things since you have to start back from ground zero?
Man, that's a good question.
I have a couple thoughts I can start with.
Yeah.
I think with the students, there's been like a couple positives and also a couple like drawbacks that we've seen. Starting with positives, I do think that there is a little bit of a lure of like, humans are built for relationships. And so we're working with students who had to spend, at least a year, sometimes a little bit more, not being able to foster relationships like they wanted to. And so when they finally have an opportunity to spend time with people, they're like really excited and like their body craves like just hanging out with people their age, like, and having fun. Some of the drawbacks we've seen is, a 7th grader probably has like the emotional maturity of like a 4th grader, just because they were delayed in their growth when it came to their social environment. And so there's been a lot of times where we've had to manage, emotions, conflicts, maybe in a different way that we wouldn't have originally expected. And that also sometimes can affect, okay, like what is their capacity to like sit down and actually go through a teaching or a lesson, and like what is their capacity to really like take in what's being taught. So I think over the years since we've seen, that kind of change. But I think that you've got the positives of they want to hang out with, they have the drawbacks of how do I do this? And how do I learn? And how do I interact with people in like an appropriate way?
I would imagine there's some challenges there because now it's a two-pronged problem, as kind of you were starting to approach to, because now it's like we have kids that maybe are missing some cues socially, but you are already dealing with trying to open up their eyes to spiritual things. So now you're dealing with both social and spiritual things. I would imagine that presents a little bit of a challenge. Does that affect how you guys plan things, how you organize, or in ways that you would minister?
I don't necessarily think so. I feel like we had to kind of reteach them how to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And once we start having fun, we can kind of help them see that, hey, following God, learning about God, Bible teachings, activities, camps, those can all be fun too. But getting them, they were just so used to just sheltering in place in their little comfort zones. And so anything that's uncomfortable, like exploring faith, exploring questions about what do you believe, is challenging for them. So one of our big steps is we really emphasize that, we're there to have fun. We're there to learn about God. We're there to form friendships that can be healthy. And a lot of them are trying to escape unhealthy friendships. A lot of them are trying to escape unhealthy family situations too. So this can be a safe place where we combine fun with learning about God. And we've seen some kids be more receptive to that. We've seen a number of kids actually come to Christ over the last 2 years, which has been fantastic. I mean, we love seeing that. That's why we're there. But
right.
So there is a general openness, and they're interested in it. I think we're just helping them develop the vocabulary for what these things are, what Jesus is, how you come into a relationship with Jesus, how Jesus wants to bless their life. So.
Now, let me ask you a question. Excuse me, and I want you to realize where this is coming from, because it might sound weird when I ask it. I fully see the role of YFC as far as how you guys can reach out to the youth. For some people that might be listening or just looking from the outside, they would say, well, isn't that what our local church youth group is doing? And is this group competing with our local youth group? And I'm sure this isn't the first time you've had to address that, but if you could kind of speak to what is the difference in the role and function between an organization like YFC as opposed to a local church youth group kind of thing?
Sure. I think one of the big differences, and the way that I view it personally, is Youth for Christ, Young Life, FCA, all these parachurch ministries ultimately need to be used as a vehicle for the church to open the doors into new ways that they can reach students. Every church has a desire in their community to reach the students, because that's the children of their congregation.
Sure.
It's the children of their neighborhoods. We're able to do it in a slightly different way. So in a lot of ways, it's complementary. Schools don't have typically much of a presence or churches don't have much of a presence in the schools. Whereas an organization like us, even though we're a Christian organization, schools love us because we kind of come in and we provide community aid. We aid the administrators. We tag along and help out with lunchroom management, and that's one of the things that we do out in Johnstown that we love so much, because every day then we get to interact with over 400 students, which during COVID, when we weren't in the schools, you're just kind of looking around the neighborhood and at the parks, and you're just like, where is everybody? Well, they're locked up in their rooms, right?
Yeah.
So it's, it was like, where's all the kids? And then we finally get back into school and you're like, oh my God, here they are.
Yeah.
And I'm part of a church too, and I've done student ministry in my church, but I've never been, able to see the kids in this scope, and then be able to interact with them in a really credible way, because we're kind of coming in under an approved badge by the school. And so parents are more receptive to us having an influence in their kids' life. They're more, they're cool with, the kids coming out to our programming because we're vetted in a lot of ways. And so it's just a new way that we can expose kids to the gospel. And now ultimately, our mission is to reach kids age 11 to 19. So middle school and high school. After that, where do they go?
Right.
We're not a church. And so that's why it's so important that we partner with the local churches, because we want to, plug these kids into these churches. So we view it as a complementary ministry that, engaged with a church, we can work together to reach kids for Christ, but then also help them and their families find a way into the church.
Well, yeah, and it's great that you mentioned the families, because in addition to, you may be ministering to these youth, but then as you might start to become aware of needs with the parents, the siblings, and you guys aren't necessarily tooled for all that, and that you need the church to partner with you to say, hey, there's more needs here than what we're really set up to deal with. But you can still be that outreach arm that makes that initial contact and is there as a presence on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to continue this discussion tomorrow. And as we do, we're going to get a little more into the particulars of the work that you guys are doing at Johnstown and maybe some opportunities that are available there, as well as some of the extra ministries that we haven't got into yet. Young Life Youth for Christ has a lot of those others. I was thinking of Campus Life when I said that, and we'll talk about that in tomorrow's episode. In the meantime, you can go to shepnaz.org, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Alex and Sam, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.